Welcome to 216, a link to the Past Randomizer podcast. I am your host, fearagent. We're back. It's safe to say we're back. It's safe to say that because we've got an episode here, and I've got 2 more in the can, 1 more lined up. So I guess I'm doing this. It's weird for me because I'm not really back racing like I am. I have joined the league. League Season 7 is about to start next week. I joined with Jammo and Homemade Beer. Our team is called 3 Off the Tee. Golf reference. I don't get it. I don't golf, but the other 2 guys do, and so whatever. It's cool. But yeah, back with the league. But I've been doing some practice with Jammo. Mostly done some practice with Beer. He's kind of busy, but I just don't really enjoy playing the game all that much, to be honest. I thought I would. Well, let me correct that. I really enjoy co-op. Like the times that I've practiced with Jammo and Beer have been really, really fun. And I really enjoy playing with those guys. Solo racing, just not my thing. And I thought maybe the time off would change that. It hasn't. And that's okay. And so, like, I think the question is, like, am I back? I think I'm back in the sense that I never left. 216, the Discord's kind of always been open. A lot of action over there. It's mostly sports. We're not really talking random, but mostly sports, which is more of what my interest is anyways. I'm just not into the racing community. I think that's the big thing. I'm just not into racing, and that's fine. It's just a new shift. It's a paradigm shift for me because racing was so prevalent in my life for, 6 years or something, from 18 to 24. I thought, the show would go away with me not racing and me not be involved in the community. I'm not really in any other Discords. I don't really want to get involved with conversations about racing. I just don't care enough. So that's kind of what 216 is now. It's like kind of what it's always been, about people more than about racing. So no reason to not talk with people in the community. It's just maybe a little bit of a different perspective or something. I don't even know. Like, we'll got a good lineup of people that I've talked to already. It's just been a lot of fun conversations that I've had with the guests coming up. So today on the show, we've got Leaf, and we'll get to that shortly. Leaf is someone that I mentioned when the show originally ended. And I guess we'll just say when the feed ended, because that's really what happened. Of someone that I wanted to talk to and didn't get a chance to. So bringing the new feed back, the new show back. So you get to hear that. That's coming up here in just a minute. So League's back. League Season 7. They took all of 2024 off. And League's back to springtime, which is where it's supposed to be. Like, I remember campaigning for that way back when, probably 2021, 2022. The seasons 2 and 3 we did in the same calendar year. So that was the COVID year. We ended up running, we ran League twice that year. And then the main tournament took the fall off, and they took the spring spot. And then while I was there, I'd always try to get that spring spot back, but it just never worked out. So they were able to switch that. So that's cool. I think League being in spring is better, mostly for the co-op thing, like in scheduling. Wintertime is just a little bit tougher with Christmas and everything, and the holidays that come along with November and December. It's just tough. Back in spring, that was a real positive for the league. I know that allowed them to spend more time getting Season 7 ready. And I think I touched on this in the last episode, and I don't want to harp on it because, like, Sigma runs the league now. It's his league. I don't like what they did with the season. It's really unfortunate, and I think it shows like 28 invitational teams and 22 or 26 open teams. That's like a huge drop off. And I know that there was a drop off in the main tournament, but that's like almost a 50% drop off from the last league. And that's, you could say it's attrition from racing, and maybe that is a thing, but I think it speaks poorly to what they did for the season. I'm sorry, Sigma. I'm sorry. Just for me, the league is super important to me, and it always will be, because it was my baby. I created it. I fostered it, and I feel like I turned it into something that was really, really good with the help of a ton of people. It's not just me, but I stepped away when I needed to step away, and that felt right. And I thought they did a good job the last couple of years, despite like some hiccups and mode selections and stuff. But man, I feel like they dropped the ball this year, and that's really unfortunate. Maybe they could turn it around. I don't know. We'll see. I hope to have fun regardless. Like, I don't think I'm playing any solo modes. Since there's 4 weeks of co-op, I think I'm able to play all 4 of those weeks and skip all the solo modes. That's nice. Yeah, we'll see how we do. Reveal stream is always fun. Again, a little shocking. There's so few teams. Oh man. It was tough. It's tough for me. It's tough when you see something that you care about like falter as much as it has. And it's unfortunate. What the solution is, I don't know. Maybe it's not even the admin's fault. Maybe it's just where the community is. I don't know. And maybe I'm just so far removed from that I just gotta let it go and be okay with it. Maybe I'm in the wrong. Maybe I'm just totally off base. And this is actually what the community is and what the community should be and where it's at, and just deal with it and suck it up. But I'll be playing. So 216 though, we're back. We're talking with people. And that's, again, really what this is all about, making friends and just learning who people are. And that's kind of always been what 216 is, and we'll be going in the future. So got 4 episodes, including this one, lined up. Again, we're not going seasons. Those 4 episodes, I think, will be the next 4 weeks. Not sure, but just keep a lock on the feed. And when a new episode shows up, you get to listen to it. A couple of housekeeping things real quick. Since we do have a new feed, it means we have everything's like super fresh. There's no reviews or anything like on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. So if you could leave a 5-star review, that would be super awesome. And again, help the show get out there. I'm not trying to make the show more than what it is, but more listeners never hurts. If you want to help the show, just go to Apple Podcast and click 5 stars and leave a review if you can. That'd be super helpful. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun to be doing this stuff, and I hope you find it fun too. I won't be complaining about League anymore. I'm gonna zip it up. I've said my piece. Everyone will know that listens to the show how I feel. Done. Now we just get to go into the games and have fun with that and try to enjoy that. I think we'll have some League stuff on this feed as well. What that is exactly, I'm not going to tell you because I don't have it fully formed. But we'll have the 3 episodes that I have recorded. I've got 1 more to record here soon. And then something special. So could be a pretty fun active feed here in the next few months. So yeah, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We're everywhere. 216pod.com is the link to the website, a new website. It's a bit different than it was before. And then of course, join our Discord, and we should have links for that in the show notes. One last thing before we get to the episode, I want to give a huge shout out to Laoria for picking up editing again. Like this, she didn't know I was bringing the show back. And so kind of popping it on her, and her just kind of picking up the reins again has been awesome. So really appreciate her and all the work that she is doing with this show. Makes it possible. And there would be no 216 without her. So huge shout outs to Laoria. Give her love in the Discord. That'd be awesome, because she is the reason that you're even listening to this right now. So thanks to her. All right. So Leaf is on the show today, and I've known Leaf for quite a while. Used to go by Zeke, has a new name, and they have been just in the community as a positive force for quite a while. And I didn't really know Leaf all that well. We weren't running in the same circles for the most part. Had very limited interactions with them, but they've always been super cordial, super nice, and super friendly. And even when we didn't see eye to eye, it was always just pleasant, and I just appreciated that. So glad to have them on the show today, and glad for you to hear their story. So let's get to it. Here is Leaf. Well, let me ask you this. Are you joining season 7 of the league?
I am.
Okay. And you were invitational last season, right?
I was, yes. I'm going to be this year as well.
fluff around and find out, right?
We've actually reverted back to the TM32 name from season 5, but yes.
Okay.
Because we swapped Wolfie back out, so.
Okay, I see. So
it's Ruby, Dreaky, and
I got you. So does that go back? Because you've been looking at your league page, you've been playing since season 3, right?
Correct.
So you didn't play seasons 1 or 2. You were playing with Zeruvian and Mocha Jones that first season.
That first season had some stories to it.
Well, if you don't mind sharing, I'd love to hear them. Because I'm looking at 2 former members on your team.
Yeah, that was a special exception your admin team gave my team.
Mm-hmm.
So the original team lineup was Mocha, SEZ, and I, all free agents, all fresh out of Mentor Tourney. / I was not a Mentor Tourney participant that year, but I've actually never participated in the Go Mode Mentor tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But I started right around that same time. I basically just missed deadline by the time I started.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
As evidenced by the 0-8 record that season.
Yeah.
But the original team plan was going to be me, Mocha, and SEZ. And then before season started, SEZ's PC basically just died. And due to financial situation, was not going to be able to get a PC to participate in League that year. So the admin team gave us permission to sub someone out and still have the sub available.
I see.
Which we didn't know was going to be sub available and necessary until later. Because after Laoria joined us and then lost, they also had real life get in the way. So your admin team gave us special permission, so we made our substitute before the season started.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, that almost doesn't seem like a substitution if the season hadn't even started yet.
I mean, it had already been revealed was the only part.
I see. Yeah, but they didn't play games, right? Like,
yeah, SEZ did not play a single game. Laoria played, I think, 2.
It looks like they went 0-2. And two names, honestly, that I'm not really familiar with. I don't know if they still play or not. Looks like SEZ actually played season 5 too. So
SEZ, I know, is a very busy individual.
Okay.
So they came back for a time when they were less busy, and then life got busy again.
Sure.
Yeah. And then we were looking for a teammate, and actually our first intention was already taken to replace another member of another team of my friends.
Okay.
So we actually got a recommendation from Drossi.
Okay.
Recommending us this Zeruvian guy. Who, by that point, I was familiar with the name as a result of the ladder.
I see.
He and I played a race back in season 3, where the only things I remember about it were I hadn't learned Ice Palace Bomb Jump yet. Samaria was in ice, and also Vanilla Hookshot. As evidenced by the fact that, I'm still teamed up with Ruby to this day.
Right.
With the exception of the fact that we've kind of done every other season, but I'm still close friends with Ruby.
Yeah.
Obviously, Drossi knew something was good there. So
sure. And sometimes it just works out, right? Like you don't necessarily know. And sometimes you just meet someone and you really click. So
yeah.
So you've been around for season 3. Gosh, we're going on season 7. And what's crazy about all of it is there was no league in 2024.
Yeah, because we had the break, which I'm glad they took a break to be able to let things get better.
Sure.
And the time slot is much better than the holiday slot. I'm going to say that.
Yeah, I've always liked, the league was always intended to be, I guess, in the spring. But then that 2020 season where we ended up running 2 that year kind of changed things. But now I guess this will be going on 7 years because of the breaks. That's pretty crazy. So you've been playing this game for, 4 or 5 years at this point. Do you remember when you first got introduced to Link to the Past Randomizer?
I do. There are a couple of times of introduction to Link Past Randomizer. One of them is, of course, Andy and the GDQ run.
From 2018, yeah.
Mine was actually the 2020 crowd control.
Oh, okay.
Or 2018 crowd control.
I see.
And then I was like, Link to the Past Randomizer, this looks cool. And I already loved Link to the Past, although I never actually played the SNES Link to the Past by that point. Because I'm coming on 30. I'm younger than Link to the Past. I never had a Super Nintendo.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
But I was able to adapt to the differences between it and the Game Boy Advance port.
Was that the first one that you played? Was the Game Boy Advance? Okay. That makes sense.
I've tried to go back and play it recently, and why does Link have Ocarina of Time?
I know, it's so weird. That Game Boy Advance version is weird. It is weird.
I have a soft spot for it still, but God, the noises.
Sure, it is. It's awkward for sure. Did you grow up playing video games? Have video games always been in your life?
Video games have been an important part of my life. And part of it is my dad was in the army. We were moving around a lot.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the best chance to get a normal social life. I didn't have the best chance to make a lot of friends. So games kept me occupied and happy.
Sure. For sure. I mean, that's the beauty of them. And especially nowadays with the internet and being able to connect with other people and do podcasts and things like that, it makes it easier and in some ways harder as well. So what were you playing? If you just turned 30, that means you were born in the mid 90s.
I was. So console wise, we didn't have a lot of console because we had the NES.
Yeah.
And actually some of my earliest memories of games was actually not even me playing, but on the family couch watching dad play through the original Legend of Zelda.
That's awesome.
So Zelda appealed to me as a result of that.
Sure.
But I was also heavily into like Pokemon and Final Fantasy.
Oh, okay. So which versions of Pokemon? Because both Pokemon and Final Fantasy are pretty foreign to me. I know them in concept. I've played less than a handful of Final Fantasy games. What were you playing and what was it that drew you to it?
With Pokemon, I basically had a version from every generation that came out for between the year 2000 and the year 2013.
Okay. Is that Game Boy Advance or which was the first?
Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, and also Nintendo 3DS.
Okay.
So, but what appealed about Pokemon was being able to befriend these creatures and raise them yourself. So
yeah, that makes sense. Totally.
Again, kind of limited social life. So that appeal of being able to befriend people and creatures was appealing.
Yeah, for sure. So you were moving around a lot. Like how many times do you think you moved within like the first 15 years of being alive?
Luckily, by 16, I was at least settled in. But the first 16 years, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times.
Wow, that's a lot. That is a lot.
For the record, since I don't have a camera on, I was actually moving my arm around a invisible map of the United States to represent where I went. So
that's interesting. So
I never got to go outside of the country.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Yeah, so it was all within the states,
all within the continental.
Okay, what were some of your favorite places to be, and did any of them like stick out, or was it you were never really there long enough to really experience what it was like?
So the two that stand out the most, because about every other we came home here to Idaho. My mom's family's here, and so like when dad went deployed to Iraq or deployed to Korea, they would move us back home so she'd be with family in case something went wrong.
I see. Yeah, understandable.
So before dad retired, we lived in about an hour outside of Washington, D.C.
Oh, okay.
So, heavy cultural melting pot there.
Sure.
And by that point, I was old enough to have been studying through things like American history, world history, and cultures. So a lot of that was appealing and brought memory because we were able to go and do things and see these places where things happened. It's like we basically weren't home on weekends that entire year and a half.
I see.
Because we just kept going out and seeing all these sites because mom knew next was retiring, was when dad would retire and probably move back home to Idaho again.
So take advantage of what you can.
Take advantage of what you can. Well, now that her kids are old enough to enjoy it. Because she'd actually been there before, but that was right around when I was born and when my sister was, like 7.
Okay.
So it's a lot harder to get that experience with younger kids.
For sure. Yeah, definitely.
But by the most recent point, I'm like 14. My younger sister's like 12. So, and my older sister's an adult.
To go
We're able to go out and enjoy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
what was your least favorite place to be in the States?
Here?
Where you're at now?
I promise this is the only time I'm going to bring up any political side. I'm very much left-leaning and I'm living in conservative Idaho.
Yeah, that's tough.
My ideals do not overlap with theirs.
For sure. That's tough. It is. Yeah, for sure. So, tough. I can imagine.
That is why I say this is my least favorite.
Sure. That makes sense. It's hard to be comfortable in a place where you're not allowed to be comfortable, right? That's tough.
Preach. Louder for the people in the back.
So you said you had 2 sisters? Is that all of your siblings? How many siblings did you have?
Yeah, it's just my older sister and my younger sister.
Okay. And what about video gaming or playing with them? Did did that, or even not just video games, but games, or was there?
My family did a lot of board games together.
Yeah.
My sisters and I played a lot of the same types of games.
Mm-hmm.
You do know Pokemon is a very encouraging to socialize with other people, be able to complete collections across different versions.
Mm.
And so, like, my younger sister and I would often have opposite versions of each other, so we could trade Pokemon and be able to complete collections. Give us goals to look at.
That's awesome. And so that helps build and create a relationship with your sister then, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's nice.
And we're all still close now, so
yeah, that's awesome. That's cool when something like gaming can bring people together, especially within your own family too. You know, it's not always like that for everyone. And again, we're doing this because of a silly video game, but it's always cool when those connections can be made.
I mean, you and I are talking because you and I both enjoy a 30-year-old Super Nintendo game.
That's right.
Hell, it's coming on 35 years old now.
I know, it's crazy. Time is just, it doesn't make sense. As you get older, it's just like, I'm in my 40s now. And I'm like, what happened? Where did all this time go? Like my oldest daughter's going to high school next year. And it's just like, what is time? It makes no sense. Yeah, thanks. So you talked a little bit about Pokemon. What about Final Fantasy? How did that influence you, or what was it that really drew you to that? And what was that also on Nintendo? You said you didn't have a lot of consoles.
Yeah. We're a very Nintendo focused household in terms of games. We had Nintendo handhelds and consoles. We had a NES and we got a Wii when I was like 10 or 11.
Okay.
So I enjoyed the Final Fantasies. They actually kind of encouraged me to learn how to read, to actually understand what's going on.
Yeah, that's good.
And I got into that role-playing game genre because of this.
Mm-hmm.
So like a lot of my favorite games out there are in the role-playing genre. Final Fantasy in particular holds a place in my heart because there's a lot of classic fantasy stories in those older Final Fantasy. Because like I only ever played Final Fantasies that effectively came on the NES or Super Nintendo, though I was playing Game Boy Advance ports of them in this case.
Yeah. Which ones do you remember were the first for you? Where do you remember first playing?
The first one I remember playing was the first Final Fantasy. Actually,
okay.
I can actually say in this case, I did try my hand at playing the NES Final Fantasy. We had it on our NES.
That's awesome.
Even by the time I played it, I was like, this is not that fun with these mechanics. But when I went back and played the advanced port with a lot more quality of life, it played better, and I was able to appreciate what even a basic story that helped kind of save a game development company in this case.
Sure.
Because they called it Final Fantasy because it was intended to be their last game. Because they were going bankrupt.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know that.
Let's look at the fact that 30 years later, they're not.
Right. Yeah. It's so funny. Like when you talk about quality of life, I just think back to those NES games and some of the SNES where it's hard for them to translate to newer generations. Like my kids just aren't into like the original Zelda or even really Link to the Past. Because the games just doesn't hold your hand. You had to like really kind of figure it out. There's a community aspect of like you talk to your friends about like how do you get past the Helmasaur in Pod or something. You know what I mean? Like
okay, Helmasaur. I must ask, were you a Hammer kid or a Bombs kid?
Totally a Hammer. I totally hammered that thing.
Okay, you and I are both in the same boat then.
Yeah. I didn't even think about bombs. I don't know why I didn't think about bombs, but yeah, I was definitely a hammer kid. But the quality of life of those games, you just have to like figure things out. Like even like the flute, right? Like you have to dig a random spot in that little place, but you could dig anywhere in the game, right? Almost anywhere where there's grass, and it's like how do you find this thing? So
I mean, some NPC gives you the hint for it.
It's a hint, but it's pretty loose though.
It's a loose hint, but if you, it's a hint that makes sense if you've explored, which a lot of kids didn't as much.
Right? Yeah.
You had the hint of the flute kid disappearing in the Light World screen.
Right. Totally.
And then he'd mentioned sparing it in the flowers.
Yeah, for sure. But there's flowers all over the place. So
yeah, you just dig in the flowers. Right. It just comes down to how long does it take you to find that, and how long does it take? How long does it take? Let's say, how long takes say an 8-year-old kid to figure that out?
Sure. I feel like in 2025 it's going to take them forever because they're going to give up. But in the 80s and the 90s, or I guess technically the 90s, early 2000s, you're going to have more patience because, the internet wasn't really a thing. And again, you had to like call the 900 number on a Nintendo Power or something.
The Nintendo hotline.
Yeah, to try to get some answers. But it's just funny to think back again, the age, maybe it's just an age thing as I'm getting older and I see the games that are coming out now, games that my kids are playing are just so much more immersive in a way that doesn't use as much imagination. Like that first Link, or that first Zelda is it's so basic, and yet it was so immersive in a way that
so captivating.
Right, but it's so limited in what it's doing and on the graphics and all that kind of stuff. But it was still so immersive. I don't know what my point is. I think it's just as I get older again, I look back, I go, what was that? What's going on?
What was it about the game that captured our hearts back then?
Totally. Yeah. Because you look at like just compare like Tears of the Kingdom to the first Zelda, and it's just not the same, right? They're both totally immersive in their own different ways. I don't know.
I'll pretend to understand. I've not played Tears of the Kingdom.
Okay. Will you play Breath of the Wild?
I gave it a bit. It wasn't for me.
Oh, okay.
But that was mostly due to one mechanic that I didn't care for.
The breaking of
the weapon durability.
Yeah, for sure. It is frustrating. And I'm really curious of what they do with the next installment of Zelda, because the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom thing was good, and I really enjoyed those. But there's also something missing about classic Zelda with those as well. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what they do. Did you play Echoes of Wisdom?
I have not. I don't use my Switch much, so it's hard to justify a $60 game when you don't use console that much.
Sure. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
I've heard good things. So.
Yeah, it was fun. It was cool to play Zelda too. I thought that was cool. So you're playing a lot of different video games. Is it mostly Pokemon and Final Fantasy?
Mostly in that RPG vein. Lots of long story-based games, because another part of it is a lot of my memories of playing these games is when we did our moves across the country, my dad always liked to drive stuff himself. So he'd take me in the front seat of the moving truck with him, and the girls would all take mom's van following behind.
I see.
So he's driving. I'd be playing whatever game is the current one of interest, and I'd be talking about story with him. And he gets to experience the story through me.
That's cool.
So
that's awesome.
Another case of games bringing family together.
For sure. What games were it besides Final Fantasy then? What other RPGs?
One of the most memorable ones of those, that story type for me, was Game Boy Advance RPG Golden Sun.
Never played Golden Sun. Haven't played a lot of RPGs.
It's another very tropey fantasy story.
Sure. There's nothing wrong with tropey. I like tropey.
Oh, absolutely not. There's a reason that tropes work.
Right. It's, can you take them and just give them something new or something fresh, or just turn them just a little bit to make it so it's not just a trope? And I feel like a lot of these RPGs, like I remember I just recently played Final Fantasy IV a couple years ago now. And
love that game so much.
It was super immersive. It was super good. It was an updated version. It was a remastered version. So I think there's some quality of life changes.
I think I played every remastered version.
Sure. But again, there's a lot of similar like fantasy tropes and things like that. But it does such a good job of, just giving it its own little twist to make it that much more interesting, right? Like I really enjoyed that.
Part of it is Square Enix is so good at characters.
Yeah. Did they make Golden Sun too? Or is that someone else?
They did not. That is Camelot. And I'm trying to remember what else they made. But what made Golden Sun stand out was also in the gameplay. You know how when you're playing an RPG, you're wandering around the map interacting with things?
Mm-hmm.
You have different spells that you can use to interact without having to do things like just push the blocks yourself. And they make a lot of clever puzzles out of it.
Interesting. And that was you were playing that on the
Game Boy Advance. A lot of my memory comes from the Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color. Game
Boy Advance was such a good console. Man, that console was awesome. The SP specifically, the original version where you needed like a night lamp or a little thing over the
backlit screen was a game changer.
Yeah. When the SP came out, I just remember being completely blown away by.
I'm so sad. My Game Boy Advance SP, I cannot get it turned on after last year. It's lived a good 15 years.
Yeah. Good console though. Such a good console.
Incredible console.
Yeah. DS too. Like the DS did a lot of work for a really long time.
Yeah.
Did you ever get into PC gaming or start exploring some of the RPG stuff there?
I would like to say I didn't, but my 800 game Steam library says otherwise.
Okay. So just a little bit. Just a little bit.
I like that my PC is my new game system at this point.
I mean, why not? It does everything, right? Like
the only thing it doesn't do is handheld, and courtesy of some very, very good friends, we fixed that problem with the Steam Deck.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, for sure.
We'll discuss that later, I guess.
Let's get to it. What do you mean? Well, let's get. Tell me.
That's a story that comes in later, because that was actually, I went to SGL for the first time this last year.
Oh, okay.
So, and I'm effectively broke, so I was actually not expecting to be able to go. And the generosity of close friends, the generosity of this community, I get my trip to SGL paid for by my friends. Hotel, SGL ticket, airfare.
That's awesome.
And I know I believe there was at least some money being pooled, but this won't surprise you. Leading charge is Amarith.
Amarith is just the best, right?
One of the best people out there.
Yeah, she's great.
She's been one of my friends for just about as long as Ruby at this point.
So tell me a little bit about your experience at SGL. What did you think? Did you play in any tournaments?
So
were you nervous about going?
I was nervous about going, but that's because it was my first time traveling on my own. So I'd not done an airplane in 20 years. I hadn't ever done one on my own. And I'm like, I'm going to have to figure out how to get there and then meet people I've barely seen pictures of, because a lot of my friends are the group who don't use like a camera.
Sure. Yeah. I would say most people in the community don't use camera, right? Like I feel like the minority of runners are streaming because they have to stream because it's a race. So they're not really streamers in the first place and don't use cameras. I think it's just pretty common. So, and interacting with people in real life is a little bit different than it is online, even through a stream. So,
yeah, I mean, I was very excited to go. And one of the reasons that I decided to fight to be able to go was the third teammate, Driki, was also going.
Okay.
Which they also went a long way. They came over from France.
Wow.
So, and I'm going to be completely honest. That was a big motivation to go. I want to see my boyfriend. So.
Sure. Tell me about the experience.
It was a very good experience. I would recommend anybody go to SGL. If you're in this community, in our little retro game community that houses itself on speed gaming, it's a fantastic experience. Because from what I've heard, it's a different experience from your GDQ. GDQ is huge.
Yes. Yeah.
But you went in 23. I went in 24, and you can confirm it's a pretty chill environment.
Very chill, super chill. Yeah.
Unless your name is Adirondack Rick, and then you're trying to run around with
right. If you're working it, it's probably not chill. Yeah.
I heckle Rick because he's also my friend.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I don't know. Tell me, you fly in.
I meet all these people I've looked forward to meeting. I'm literally sharing a room with Driki and another member of the friend group. I believe also in the room with me was Breadcoon. So, and I participate in Link's Pass because I could have played other games there. I didn't want to spend my entire time playing games.
Yes.
Unlike somebody else I know who decided they want to play in 4 tournaments and make it to semis in all of them. Poor Ikir is so good at games, but we were lucky to get time to take him out to dinner a couple of times.
It's so hard. I mean, just with Link to the Past on its own, if you're playing rando in the tournament, it just takes up so much time. And of course, it's fun and everything, but the further you go, the less time you have to do all the other stuff with everyone else, right?
If I go again, I'm not playing. I'm playing. I literally only played because I wanted that experience of playing in the live tournament, even though I didn't have as much appeal to playing in the tournament. But I wanted that race experience. I actually got to even enjoy the restream experience of it. So
you were on restream?
I was on restream myself once and on comms once.
Nice.
So, of course, the comms was me and Ruby commentating.
Sure.
And you've heard us get going. It gets wild. But I got to experience a race live on the restream stage, face to face with an intimidating player by the name of Gem.
Oh, geez.
I told myself going that race for the record that my goal was to be in go mode by the time Gem was done because it's Gem and it's a boot start mode.
Yeah. And how'd you do?
I made it the GT before he finished.
Nice.
Which was closer than I expected.
Yeah, very few people can beat Jim. It's just the nature of the business, right? Like,
and from what Clearmouse and Telethar were telling me after the race, one different decision, and I'm beating Jim live on stage. Because, it's Jim. Of course, Clearmouse is on commentary.
Right. Yeah, that's funny.
But the live race experience is a lot of fun, even if I only got to race half my group because of different factors that happened. Some people just realize, this isn't what I want to do, and just drop.
That was me. I think I did one race, and that was like this. I'm good. I think I'm good. And also where I'm at, I'm just not really interested in racing all that much. But it is a different experience racing live than it is online for sure.
Which is why, even though I didn't care for them, I'm not a big open mode player. But even though I wasn't as big a fan of the modes, even though I want to spend more time, I don't know when the next chance I'll get to go is.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure I had that experience to get all the experiences of SGL out of there.
Sure. And as far as like hanging out and other gaming or just like board gaming and stuff, were you able to do any of that?
I did a lot of hanging out with different crowds. Let me tell you, it was, I think, Thursday night that week was a great night. I was up until like 4 a.m. hanging out outside with names like Ninjembro, Average Frustrated Gamer, TJ Maelstrom.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Love TJ Maelstrom. He cannot sing Phil Collins at the top of his lungs while drunk.
Were you doing karaoke or was it?
I wasn't, but something inspired him to do it.
Okay.
I'm going to guess it was the alcohol.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Like I said, love the guy. And what amazed me was he was absolutely... I watched how much he drank that night, and then he got up the next morning at 9 a.m. and won a race. So
That's awesome.
But yeah, like I said, I got to meet all sorts of wonderful people there, including members of my close friend group. I didn't expect to meet Amerith sooner than getting there, but Amerith and I both met up at my layover. So
nice.
But like, I met Amerith, I met Ruby, I met Dreeky, I met TJ, Ninjembro, Pichu.
Oh, Pichu was there. That's right. Yeah.
Because Pichu came down with the Quebec crew, names like Scary Olive and Falcon.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely, I went 23 and I missed out on 24. And I, seeing the pictures, seeing the videos, seeing the streams and stuff, it was definitely a big case of FOMO. I was definitely missing out, and it looked like a really good group. Again, had gone and just hung out.
You were one of 3 people I was not disappointed, but I was sad to hear weren't able to go or chose not to go.
Mm-hmm.
So the other 2 being Zaf and Sean Rhapsody. But
yeah. I don't know if 2025 is in the cards for me, but it's
in the consideration.
It's definitely, yes, in the consideration for sure. Because I did have a good time that year. I shared a little bit of my struggles with SGL a little bit, but I feel like just missing out really kind of changed that a little bit. Like, man, I really want to be there and just kind of hang out with people. I mean, 216 was dead, right? Like 216 was gone, and yet here we are. I can't get away.
I didn't. I'll be honest. I wanted you to enjoy your retirement. I also had my hopes that 216 would return because both you and Dante kind of stepped back a lot.
Yeah.
And I was missing these conversations of people because I loved listening to these episodes because it let me see into the minds of people who I've known and respected and looked up to for years.
Sure.
And it gave me, in some cases, turned around a negative impression to make me have more respect for the person.
That's awesome.
And I will actually say the name of the one who, in this case, because it won't surprise anybody. It won't even surprise you.
Yeah, I already know who you're gonna say. Right, GGW is a lightning rod for sure.
He's a lightning rod
for sure.
But he's a good person.
That's the thing, right? Like, and this is a little bit of a sidetrack, but I miss talking with people. I'm not racing. I'm in the league. I'm struggling. League hasn't started yet. I don't know when this episode's going to drop specifically, but I'm struggling playing because it's not as fun as it used to be for me. And the reason I wanted to join the league, there's multiple reasons because I, created it and I have a soft spot for it.
And I think you always will.
Yeah, it's the community aspect of it, right? That's what draws me, and that's what kept me in the game for so long. for all these years is the community. I think it's a great community. And, back when I started 216 originally, it's to get to know the community. And, I started with a lot of the quote unquote bigger names in the community, the Dantes and the Gamachoos and stuff.
The big names and your more direct friend group at that time.
Right.
Or a lot of names I remember seeing and
for
hearing
sure.
about.
For sure. And now I'm kind of past that because I don't even know who the big names are. I have a little checked out, but I'm excited just to get back and talking to people. And honestly, when the show ended, I know I mentioned this in the Discord. One of the people that I felt like I missed getting a chance to talk to was you. And so I'm excited that you're here to do this. And I'm like, just in the first few minutes of the show, I got to learn already a lot about you. And I think I'm excited about that. So,
and I remember listening to that final. I actually listened to that final outro before listening to Kermit's episode.
Oh, okay.
Because I knew that with it being the final one, I wanted to hear kind of your farewell statement.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember hearing my name being mentioned as one of the ones you wish you'd gotten a chance to talk to.
Yeah.
Because I believe, if I remember correctly, I was the kind of second name after a group, namely, I believe you just team name dropped Last Locationers.
Right. Yeah.
But
yeah. So I'm super glad that we got a chance to do this for sure. Listening to your story is awesome. I want to hear even more of it. So you were playing all those games. You've got your 800 games Steam library.
It's still growing. At the time I joined, I think it had like 600.
Jeez.
But what?
Do you just buy everything that's on sale or something, or how does that? How do you get 800?
Okay, how I get 800 is Humble Bundle. I am a sucker for charity, and so when you have a company that's giving bundles of games with proceeds that you can dedicate to given charities, like, yeah, this is a good way to get. If there's games I'm interested in bundles, I'll just get the whole bundle and support charity.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I like charity. It's why you'll often see me hanging out and watching things like Games Done Quicks, and Speed Gaming does its annual No Kid Hungry marathon. Mm-hmm. It's why you'll see I like helping those in need. It's why you might remember last December, ZSR hosted a marathon raising money for Ricky of Kokiri.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A marathon I kind of spearheaded that because we see someone in need and it's like, they need help. We can't directly help with money. What we can do is organize.
Sure.
And the other thing we can do is, of course, play game.
Yeah, for sure. Like the gaming community is really good about raising money for others and for.
I mean, the Link to the Past community alone has multiple people in the Extra Life specialty raising money for Extra Life. Leading first and foremost in my mind is, of course, Jesse.
Right.
But he's not the only one. So
yeah, for sure. So your first introduction was Andy, right? That's what you said earlier?
My first introduction to the Link Past Randomizer, I can't remember if it was Andy for Crowd Control or Andy for SMZ3 with one of the GDQ runs there. But sure. Andy was the one who got me started on Link to the Past Rando.
So did it say, when you saw Andy play, did you say, I want to do this? Or was it just like, oh, this is kind of neat?
I want to try it because Link to the Past was one of my favorite Zeldas. So I want to try it because I'd replayed it multiple times. And it looks like a way to breathe life into it, kind of like a roguelike game.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So I find the website, I set up my first seed, and I play through my first seed of Crosskeys. Yes, I started with Crosskeys.
Okay.
Because I'm like, ooh, interesting. This sounds fun. And it took me 7 hours.
Yeah, understandable. I mean, if you dove right into the deep end, for sure.
What it gave me, I actually remember distinctly, you had to do a weaponless free heart Dark World bunny walk through Paradox Cave. Because top of Paradox Cave was at Brothers Left and your Moon Pearl is in Paradox Cave.
So you were able to figure it out? I
was able to figure it out with the help of a spoiler log.
I see. Okay. Even then, I feel like that would be tough.
If I'm learning a new rando, I always roll a spoiler log. And people may have seen, I play a lot of randos. I don't just play Link to the Past.
Okay.
So Link to the Past is just the one I'm best at.
Sure. What other randos?
If I just go with what I'm currently playing, I've been playing Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise, Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide. I'm actually in the mentor tourney for Metroid Prime 2 Echoes Rando.
Wow.
And I've just recently been getting back into Kingdom Hearts 2 Randomizer.
Okay.
So, plus whatever. Oh, and I forget the other one, Pokemon Crystal.
Sure.
So, how did I forget the Pokemon one? That's such an integral part of my life.
Right.
How did I forget the one I literally just played last night?
For sure. So let me ask you this. Your first seed is a Crosskeys. You spend 7 hours. Where do you go from there? Like, how do you just keep playing? How do you find community? Are you even interested in community?
I found community because I want to see what resources there were for learning how to go faster. So I joined at the time, I've stopped calling it the main Discord because for me, in my mind, it's the development Discord at this point, because that's where all the devs are.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time I joined the main Discord, I see this discussion of a racing council. I see this Go Mode podcast thing.
Mm.
How many people can say from the 2020 era, right in that pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
that was part of it, is the pandemic hit.
Sure.
And that summer, I'm bored to tears.
Right.
The pandemic hits. I get into the rando scene. I joined the Go Mode podcast Discord to watch this mentor tournament, and I actually get to listen in on some of the mentor sessions.
Mm.
So while I'm not directly getting mentored, I'm learning alongside these people as the class of 2020. Your Laorias, your Kazdens, your Vortexes.
Yeah.
The class of 2020 is, I still think, one of the strongest classes ever produced.
Sure. So you didn't get to play, but you were able to be a part of the community still.
Learn alongside that mentor. And the other thing, the other reason I want to get into the community, I mean, you can hear it. I'm not the most comfortable speaking. I want to be able to break out of that kind of social worry in communication.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to force myself to improve at being able to communicate thoughts and ideas.
Sure.
I want it in the booth.
I see.
I inherently blame one person for inspiring me to get into the commentary booth. And it's actually because of one of your tournament's restreams.
Oh, really?
Yep. And he knows it. He knows this is the inspiration. But Adirondack Rick commentated a mystery race between Hacksaw and Cynic in the league.
Okay.
It is famous for being about 4 hours long.
I think I remember this one.
And it is also famous because it involves Rick singing about how many trips through Desert Palace doing steak.
Yeah, that was good.
But that is the commentary thing. It's like they're having fun doing commentary. I want in. And sure, it's a commentary pair that was incredible back then. It was Rick and Rambler. I was like, yeah. I want to be able to do this. I want to get over my fear of speaking. And so I did.
That's awesome.
I've actually joined the mentor tournament to learn to commentate.
That's awesome. It's so inspiring that there's, again, we're playing a silly Super Nintendo game that's been modified.
Yeah.
And yet it's inspired friendships. It's created friendships. It's inspired creativity. And it's helped people, whether it's depression or whatever, or
it's someone
having someone that, helping you overcome your fear of speaking, like all because of this little game. I don't know. To me, it's like pretty awesome. It's pretty dang awesome.
Oh, it is. So I got started. I joined the mentor tournament and I'm slowly learning the game. I joined the ladder playing whatever mode strikes my fancy, usually Crosskeys and open. But hilariously, back in those old days, I was actually kind of against casual boots because you should earn your boots. That has that has aged poorly. Sure.
Boots is everywhere now. Yeah, starting boots at least.
I mean, I don't mind. I enjoy boots movement. I think that's part of it. That's part of what leads into learning to appreciate it is getting better at the game teaches you just the value of boost movement. Because a lot of your younger players are less interested in starting boots all the time, and then there's still some players out there who are incredible, who are not big boot start fans. Ninjembro is one that comes to mind on that.
Yeah, for sure.
But a lot of your high-end players like their starting boots, and pseudo boots are a mistake, but
sure.
But they have their place.
Yeah.
And like I said, getting better, getting to the point where I'm competing at a level where I can. At first, I'm competing to where I have a chance at playoffs in season 4 of Open. I think my team was a game out of playoffs that year. And then, making Invitational in season 5 and then being able to compete, especially in the co-op modes, with these high-end players. It led me to realize maybe I'm actually starting to get good.
So you join the community kind of through the Go Mode podcast and through the mentor tournament, not playing in the tournament. How long would it take you to say that you found your people?
So it started with that middle of season 3 when we have to replace Gnoria and Drossi recommends us Ceruvian. We start kind of talking, becoming closer friends. And then that year we get a couple of other friends in Ruvy's circle. We start playing through what we started calling Mystery Monday. Every week we just pick up a mystery seed from either the ladder or just rolling a mystery seed and playing together in a voice call. And it started out with me and Ruvy and Amarith. And Amarith actually gave us her Discord to use as a home for it. We're still there to this day.
Nice.
And it's still a lot of that crowd. About 3 or so years ago, somebody made a joke that as the random community figures out their place, they kind of settle into one of like 4 different subsets of people.
Sure.
You have your computer science type people, such as like your developers, structural mic, muffins, etc. You have your music experts. I can't think of any off the top of my head other than Danny Music at this time.
Yeah, the MSU creators.
Your MSU creators. You have what they affectionately refer to. They affectionately called them beer snobs. But you're people who like a lot of your more socializing and enjoying alcohol, maniacal and Ninjembro, for example. And then the last one is furries,
which is your community.
Which is where I ended up.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's the crowd I hang out with. We just enjoy doing things and playing games together.
Sure.
So it's about the friendship and playing the game, building it over the game we like.
For sure.
And that's what this rando's done, is built up. You've seen me. I have a set of friends. I'm also, completely on good terms with 95% of this community.
Yeah.
To the point that, drama sometimes hits and I'm trying to play a middleman to keep 2 sides.
Right. Yeah. There's definitely different situations that I can think of where you have to play both sides, right? Like you have to, how do you handle people that you maybe consider friends, or how do you handle the community, and how do you balance the two?
I have my opinion, but
sure.
I'm not trying to settle the argument. I'm not trying to put my point out there. I'm trying to keep things civil.
Sure. I think you do a good job of that too. Yeah.
At the heart of it, we have a community where I'll just use an age-old example. We have the hovering argument. That happens all the time. It sometimes got violent. You and I both saw it get violent at times in council chats. But we are here on the internet arguing about glitches for a 30-year-old game, and we're getting to the point where we want to kill each other. It shouldn't get to that point.
Right.
We shouldn't have to be this fired up over something so silly.
Yep.
There's no point.
Yeah,
and
I think you've done a good job. That's the point
I try to make. We're all just people.
Right. I think you've done a good job of trying to be the voice of reason in a lot of these, right? Where either side could get heated, or maybe both sides get heated, and then you were there to kind of reel things in, or attempt to reel things in a bit, like as best as you can. Which is a very tough position to be in.
Voices of reason in those discussions too.
Sure.
Thank the world for Error Roar.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of. I mean, the loud voices on either side are always the loudest, and it's the people of with calm reason like you and Ari that can kind of settle things down a little bit, but still it's hard. It's difficult. It's a tough position to be in. I've definitely been on all aspects. I've been the loud voice. I've been the voice of reason. I've been the antagonist. You know what I mean? Like
I'm getting attacked.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's strange. It's strange to argue about this, but we're all passionate about it. So
like I said, I try to keep things civil. The one thing that upsets me to see in these kinds of arguments is often people making it personal, especially against those who can't see it because they're not in the community.
Sure.
I've had times where people are, dragging names through mud, and I'm like, no, this is not okay.
Yeah.
Because you're not seeing the whole picture. You're just seeing through your side of the story.
Right. Totally. Yeah, it's tough. That's just people, right? Like,
it's why I never applied for the council. It's why I've not applied for Tark admin.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough job. I've done it, and it's tough. It's a thankless job too. Like when you're a position of leadership. You have to make decisions, and not everyone's going to like those decisions. And the best you can do is try to be respectful. And
the stress is part of why I stepped down after season 4 as a moderator for the league.
Yeah, league got heated. I've had to deal with so much of that, and it's frustrating.
Pilot spoiler, rule spoiler.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I had popcorn for some of those.
Yeah, so some of those are just so tough. So you started playing season 3, back to the league a little bit, and you've played every season since. So season 4, you were with Zeruvian. You actually were with Ped Zeppelin. How did that come about?
So Boca had decided not to rejoin. So Ruby and I weren't going to try and go our separate ways. And so Ruby gets picked up to replace Orange, who'd gotten picked up to go to Invitational. So originally in season 3, you had Orange, Chloe, and Adelor. And then when Orange gets picked up by Moogle and Julo, making the incredibly successful Magliacci run that year. I believe your team was one of the only ones to take a win off of them.
Yeah.
I do remember there being a tie situation where it's like there's a tie between, I think it was your team and Magliacci. And I'm like, okay, so there needs to be a coin flip because it came down to it. We should make Walkix flip the coin because he's the only other one who took a win off of either of you.
Yeah.
But Ruby got picked up to join Chloe and Adelor to make Oops All Foxes that year. And so I go put myself out as a free agent. And at first I get reached out to by Talon from Saha's Kids. And I was considering it. And then I get reached out to by TJ Jal, who had joined us recently earlier that year for the Mystery Monday, what I was mentioning earlier. And TJ and I enjoyed each other's company. And when TJ suggested me to Jetto, because Jetto and TJ were minor straights in season 3 with Logic. When Logic was too busy to come back, they need another person. He was like, why don't we pick up Zeke at the time? And I'm like, sure. And we put on a really good run. Yeah,
9-5, almost in the playoffs, right?
9-5 in a division that has promotion-bound Oops All Foxes and very dominant Dark Side of the Triforce. Because the GT division is always stacked.
Yeah. So I take it you had a good time with those guys?
I'm still friends with them, and we actually still do things from time to time.
That's awesome. Yeah, TJ is a good guy.
When I wasn't sure if Dreaky wanted to come back this year, they actually reached out to me first. I'm like, unfortunately, I think Dreaky wants back in. So, but I did give them a recommendation for their current upcoming team member. So
yeah, nice. And then season 5, you guys get invited to the Invitational, right? You, Zeruvian, and Drakey.
So Ruby and I weren't sure if we were going to join that year because Ruby wasn't clicking as well with Adelor and Chloe at the time, and I'm not sure if I want to play because of the pseudo boots, Crosskeys, and there was one other mode in there that threw me off. I think it was was that the year we had Inverosia?
It's all a blur to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I'm not a big Inverosia fan, even though I'm one of the biggest Inverted fans in the community. But we get reached out to by someone who actually didn't do a lot of associating with us. We get reached out to by Dreaky and wanting to team up with us because they'd been watching both of our streams and were fans of us. And I think you see how well that's gone.
Yeah.
Given that they are now A, my long-term teammate, and B, my boyfriend.
Right.
So
what was it like going into the Invitational?
There were several things to adjust to. One, I knew I had to step my game up because I'd watched the differences between Invitational and Open. And sure, I was on the upper end of Open, and I knew I was not going to do well against the lower end of Invitational. I did a lot of practice. Ruby and I did a lot of practice. Drakey and I did a lot of practice. We also had to adapt to the time zone difference in this case. Because our team is fun to schedule with. You have to deal with, at that time, it was my mountain time zone, fairly open. Ruby's central time zone with a variable work schedule. And Drakey's in France. So scheduling can be a bit of a headache with us.
Yeah.
I had to adapt to being able to communicate with Drakey, which their English was quite good, but it took me a bit to get used to it because I hadn't done a lot of associating with foreign accents as heavily.
Sure.
The only time I'd done co-op with a international teammate was I joined a co-op pickup before the league started that first season I joined, where I think I was playing actually against you and Gamma. I was teamed up with Schulzer.
Okay.
Nice. You know, me, I went 0-8. I'm still a complete rookie, and I'm teamed up with Schulzer.
Yeah.
And Schulzer has a reputation of being kind of arrogant.
A dick?
Yeah. Okay. Right, I forget.
Yeah.
You're open to a little more crude language.
Yeah.
I forget that. But yeah, Schulzer has a reputation of being a dick.
Yeah.
He still has a reputation of being a dick.
Sure.
But he knew I was newer, and he didn't get upset at me.
Yeah. Yeah, I found him to be, opinionated and very strong in his opinions, but is also not a bad guy. So
I think that first experience with him is what led me to go, how can people not like this guy? He's opinion, but he's genuine.
yeah,
And like even to this day, I'm actually a pretty good fan of Schulzer.
yeah.
And to the point that he was one of my three favorite teams from season 3 that year in Invitation. My 3 favorite teams that year were yours. I liked your team because I knew you. Because it was, I believe that year was you, Gamma, and 1UP.
Yep.
Schulzer's team, him, Top Life, and I think it was Shireen that year.
Shireen, yeah.
Which it helped that I was invited into Shireen's circus for the Among Us that year.
Sure.
That was a mistake. I don't like thinking back to the Among Us, mostly because I still think of getting gaslit by CJ and Shireen as imposters. That was long days.
Sure.
And the third one is another team with people I respect at this point. Never Do Chickens. Alazun, Drac, and Wolfie.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I mean, like, Wolfie's was a friend of Ruvy's, so he was also part of our Mystery Monday.
Yeah, that's awesome. So season 5, you go 7-7, and it looks like we
lose a tiebreaker to Team Hime.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a minute difference between Ruvy and Kermit, and it's immediately followed up by one of the biggest Kazboot circuses ever seen on Restream, where Ravis forgets he has a bow for doing Aga and goes around the world rechecking everything. But because he does that, he feels behind and pulls the flute out of Hera Basement. And I'm last locating that flute. But I call it a circus because neither of us played our best game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, if Ravis ever hears that, I'd be open for a rematch for that because I think we both deserve better than that.
Sure. Oh boy. So the following season, you improve a game, go 8-6, and still don't quite make the playoffs though.
Because we lose another tiebreaker. My team has made it to the Invitational, and ever since we have been a tiebreaker out of playoffs every time. That's
crazy because I'm looking at your division. In To Infinity Pagog, the Salt Miners and you are all 8-6.
And like, you don't expect, who turn out to be the champions, To Infinity and Pagog. Or the Salt Miners to go 8-6 in this division.
Yeah.
Those are both teams where you're like, well, if you look at the Salt Miners and go, this team goes 12-2 at worst. And with Pagog, it's like, yeah, it's Humbug and Vrelkin and Will's is extremely strong too.
Yeah.
This should be like the 11-3, 10-14. And, it's a division where, we all go 8-6. There's a 3-way tie. And unfortunately, the tie is determined by the fact that we pulled Salt Miners in the worst possible week we could.
Which was?
You see, Dreaky and Wolfie are really good runners, but I can't pilot them past these two.
Sure. Yeah.
GTW and Telethar and Pilot Spoiler is
yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, it didn't happen. All I'll be proud of is the fact that in the race where Telethar's running, we rolled boots in Tile Room. He still got the boots, mind you.
Yeah, that's a tough matchup for sure.
Yeah, but we go into these and we have fun.
Yeah,
and like we took a win off of like I participated in a win against Relkin is one of my proud memories of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because although I would like to thank Fluff Around and find out other teammate in that race, the 2023 World Series champions. I don't remember what team it was, but due to scheduling things, we couldn't actually land up, and so Relkin's playing while also watching the World Series with his team playing in it.
Yeah, that must have been the Rangers on that one. Yeah,
I think it was the Rangers. Yeah, but Relkin was not mad about that game.
Sure.
He said he'd normally be a little more upset about losing, but he was not mad in the slightest because his team just won the World Series. I have never heard a man with such joy in his voice to losing a major race.
Yeah, that's funny. That's good stuff.
So, but I will say, season 6 comes to memory as a favorite because I actually get my first 1v1 invitational win in season 6
against
Chloe Prower.
Nice.
Oops All Foxes, the team that kept me from playoffs in season 4. And not only is it against friends, it's in the best mode of the tournament, which is Crosskeys. Crosskeys. Yeah, I've always been the Crosskeys fanatic. Yeah. So, well, it's what you started out with, right? Like you jumped right into the deep pool. And Crosskeys is one of 2 tournaments I will participate in every single year. The other one being the league. As long as I can get a team for the league, I will rejoin. So you don't care about modes or any of that kind of stuff. You're going to join the league regardless. I considered it with the modes this year. There were a couple of things I had qualms about with the modes. I've said it to Lumaga. my biggest criticism of the modes is actually that I feel like AD key drop boost is being wasted as a co-op mode. Because I love that mode as a solo mode, and it feels like a waste, especially when we, as a result of having it, we don't have the mode that I feel defines the league to this day.
Co-op AD. Yeah.
I saw the rules. I was like, what the hell? There's no co-op AD. That mode is the league.
Yeah. Preaching to the choir here. That's I was surprised to not see that for sure.
We're still participating. We're still practicing, but it's weird not having co-op AD there.
Yeah, for sure. It is strange. Yeah, I didn't even know what to say about that. It's just strange for sure.
It's strange.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of this to me is by removing co-op AD, in a way, it feels like they've graduated out from your influence as much too.
Yeah, the league is no longer Fear Agents League for sure. I mean, I haven't been an admin there for a while. Yeah, so this is the third season, but it's definitely now that this season was the first time it felt like, oh, this is not my league anymore. Yeah,
they've grown up and gone their own way.
I don't know if I've grown up. They've just changed.
I mean, is that the kids rebelling and making their own choice?
Yes. Yep.
They're a teenager now, and you're like watching them make these decisions.
Yeah, I'm going as a parent, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? So let me ask you this before we wrap up. Where do you feel like you're at with Link to the Past Randomizer and its community? Are you in a good spot? Do you see yourself staying? Are you happy with where you're at? Do you see yourself playing for a while?
I see myself playing for a while. With the community, I have my gripes. One of the biggest gripes is we focus too much on the memes and not enough on the connections between people. Mm-hmm. Everything is a meme.
Yeah, totally. I get that.
But like after 4 years of playing, I'm still having fun.
Yeah.
The only way I'm going to stop is if it stops being fun to me, and it hasn't.
Yeah.
And it's gotten even more fun to the point where I was given a gift recently with a Super NT.
Oh, that's awesome.
I recently made the jump to hardware. And
nice.
I want to keep playing because this is passionate.
Mm-hmm.
It's been an integral part of my life. This community and the friends I've made along the way have been an integral part of reevaluating my identity.
Sure. No, that's huge.
It's helped me grow more comfortable with who I am and get over feelings and get over depression. Mm-hmm. I've done online gaming before to try and get social connection, but nothing ever grew as close as this game has.
That's awesome.
This game. And it's why I'm so invested in it emotionally, is because between the game and the friends I've made, it has quite literally helped me redefine who I am. It's helped me be comfortable to explore my identity and finally find out how to be myself and who myself is.
That's awesome. That's so cool to hear.
So yeah, I will be around for a while, even if I don't participate in major tournaments.
Right. It's now more than just a game, right? Like it's more than just a silly video game. It's your friends. It's your people that you're close to and people that have helped you and people that you've also helped. I think that's awesome. I think that's really, really cool.
I may step back from time to time because burnout is a real thing. You and I both know burnout is real.
Well, yeah, totally. Yep.
But I will always have a soft spot for this randomizer, for this community, for the people in it.
Yeah.
And I will always return because they say the game is a timeless classic. And the fact that I can come back, play, even though I'm playing it randomized and it's different every time, the fact that I can come back and want to play it, even after 4 years of competitive randomizer, attempted speedrunning, casual play, I can still want to come back despite frustrations at losing, despite the adrenaline of winning. But it's that unbridled joy that I get when playing this game that keeps me coming back.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's super awesome. So I'm going to ask you the thanks for going a little long. I appreciate that. Let me ask you the question that I ask everyone, and that's, what do you do when you get tilted? How do you handle tilt? Do you get tilted? And then when you do, what's your solution if you have one?
Do I get tilted? Hell yes, I do. I'm going to be honest. I think everybody gets tilted, at least in some way. But I get tilted. I've always gotten tilted. History of online gaming has taught me that I get tilted. And I used to not like how I got tilted. Mm-hmm. But this game, I think, is part of that maturity, that maturing, that exploring myself, becoming more comfortable with myself. Mm-hmm. The tilt doesn't affect me as much anymore. I get upset. I get a little frustrated. But I don't let it affect my future play. Mm-hmm. Let's take a race example of situation. If I'm playing a race and I take a death somewhere, Do I get upset? Tilted a little bit. Yeah. Like, you take a death cold stare, you just lost probably 3.5 minutes.
Sure.
Right there. If you play tilted, if you play frustrated, you're going to continue to dig further.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it took a lot of time for me to recognize that regardless how I feel, I have to keep calm. Because if you just play calm and try to play better, play around your mistakes, you can come back from it. Sure, it's going to be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not over till it's over.
So what do you do when that tilt happens? How do you maintain that calmness? Like, is there something that you do or something you tell yourself?
I mean, first thing to do, take a breath. Say I take death on cold stare like that. You've got the adrenaline going from a fight, but take a breath. You have to be calm first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, again, it's not over till it's over. I just tell myself, you have to keep going, stay calm. And then I look back on it later to figure out what went wrong. And I use it to identify where to practice. Because any mistake can be used as a learning opportunity. And I think part of it is also, I've stopped playing with the intent of winning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm there for the experience. I'm there to learn something. Does winning feel good? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the reason to play the game anymore for me.
Yeah, I think that helps you maintain a healthy relationship with the game, right?
And I don't play the most meta of play as a result of me not taking it as seriously.
Mm-hmm. I'm
more willing to do something a little crazier. Like I bring it up, you and I played an Ambrosia ladder one time against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided, of course, it's old ladder. I didn't know I was playing against you, but I'm playing ladder. I come out of escape with a mirror, a lamp, a master sword, and I'm like, I'm climbing Aga. I literally mirrored from the finishing escape, and I went up Aga Tower. And I remember mentioning it, and I remember you were a little upset because I made an absolutely stupid call, and I still won that race.
Yeah,
it turned out to be a required Aga was part of it.
Yeah,
I had no way of knowing at the time, but it's something that my friends and I had joked about. And I was like, it's so rare to get a chance. I want to do it and say I did it.
Mm-hmm. Now, I remember that very specifically because I was upset that I lost. And this is not to say anything. At the time, I was better than you at the game.
I mean, I'd like to argue, Fear, you're still better than me at the game.
I mean, I don't know about that. But at the time, I was better than you. And so, when you lose to someone that you think that you're better than, well, for me at least, it was tough. But I remember going into your stream, and I think I might even talked about this on the show. I remember going to the stream and how excited you were to beat me. And I got so much joy from that. Like it kind of reframed everything for me because I'd been there and I'd done that plenty of times where I beat someone that an Airy or a Blaine or an Andy or somebody that I had no business beating. And the joy that you get from beating someone that's better than you, I don't know. I think that's one of the giant big appeals of Randomizer is it kind of equalizes things. Totally. You have a chance. If we're just doing NMG, I'm losing to Airy and 1,000 other people a million times out of
same. Because I have a 137 Fear.
Yeah. So, but with Randomizer, it gives everyone that just enough. If you play regularly and race regularly, you have just enough chance to beat anyone by guessing correctly and taking a chance and doing Aga early.
It's why I liked the old ladder system so much. Is you don't know who you're racing. You could be racing, some new player who just signed up, or you could be racing Gamma. You don't know.
Right. But that feeling is so awesome when you beat somebody that you probably shouldn't be beating. I don't know. It's so good. I really do remember that. It really helped me reframe things and realize no, this is so awesome. I'm super happy it was Zeke at the time at first. So happy for Leaf, but so happy for them. And it totally helped me put things back into perspective. That was a big moment for me.
And that is also part of why I love this rando. Part of what got me to keep practicing and playing is I want to be able to play with these players I looked up to and respected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now I feel like not only can I play with people who I look up to and respect, there's probably people who look up to and respect me.
Yeah, totally. Oh, 100%.
There's probably new players watching races I've done going, I could do that.
Yep. Totally. You are amongst them for sure.
And like you said, playing a race against somebody and even just keeping it close feels good when you're playing in a hard matchup.
Yeah.
Like I was ecstatic to be in GT when I was playing Jam at SGL.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And Crosskeys tourney, I was literally a Ganon fight behind literally the player who inspired me to play the rando. Because in Crosskeys tourney 23, I played Andy, and I was a Ganon fight behind.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So That feeling
That's
of
awesome.
getting those chances to feel close to these people you're playing, you've looked up to. Or even in cases, just beating them. Beating you on the ladder, beating Skelly on the ladder are things I've done and admired.
Yeah, that's super awesome. Well, Leaf, I'm so glad we got to do this. I'm so glad that you decided to come on and to share your story. I just really appreciate it.
Of course. Would love to tell more in the future, but, people can ask me.
You're an open book.
I'm not an open book, but I'm easy enough to get open.
Nice. All right. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Fear. Welcome back.
Again, huge shout outs to Leaf for coming on the show. Really appreciate them and just was great to listen to their story. So any love you want to send them in the Discord is always appreciated. Yeah, just glad to finally get to know Leaf a little bit. So I hope you enjoyed that one. We'll be back next week with another episode. I'm not sure which of the 3 we're going to be releasing next, so it's a surprise. Come back for that. And then again, we got something brewing that has to do with the league. So make sure that you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. We're available on Apple and Spotify and Amazon and all of the major podcast platforms. And if we're not, let me know in the Discord and I can get that rectified, and we can be available everywhere. Appreciate everyone listening. Again, if you could leave a review on the new feed over at Apple Podcasts, that'd be really, really helpful. Spotify as well. And yeah, join the Discord. It's going to be a little bit quieter over there as baseball season kicks off and we close the chapter on the football season. This season of football, though, in the Discord was a lot of fun between the fantasy and just all the conversations. We even had some watching sessions during the playoffs where either I or Relkin would show the game. I don't even know. Who cares? We're not getting in trouble. We do watch parties and we'd show the game and just watch some of these really, really fun playoff games together. So I might do that again next season. But football, hockey, there's some basketball stuff going on. So mostly sports. It's not really a randomizer podcast anymore. Maybe we should change the show from 216 to something else. But that's, I guess the one common factor, the one common denominator is we're all at some point playing this randomizer game. So I guess we'll keep it. All right. It's been fun. I really appreciate you all listening, and we'll be back next week with another episode. So see you then.